Welcome to the Rainmaker Podcast, where we elevate marketing leaders inside and out. I'm your host, Veronica Rami, master marketer, executive leader, and mentor to ambitious marketing leaders wanting to advance their careers. Each episode is filled with genuine, unscripted conversations with some of the world's top marketing experts, accomplished leaders, and industry trailblazers representing brands, both large and small. Our goal with this podcast and everything we do is to help you master your role, nurture your team, prioritize your well-being, and evolve into an industry-leading Rainmaker. This is the Rainmaker Podcast. Welcome to the Rainmaker Podcast.
Thanks for having me, Veronica.
Okay, I'm really excited to have you. One, because you are a fractional CMO expert, and I feel like I get this question more often than not. I get a lot of marketers that will ask me even about my story, leaving corporate, doing my own thing, having a podcast or speaking or whatever. And so I'm in this category that I call marketing entrepreneurship and fractional CMOs definitely fall in that category to me, right?
You bet. Yeah.
Now, I kind of want to have the conversation from the perspective of somebody who's never had a taste of the entrepreneurship rainbow.
Sure.
I think there's a lot of people that are really burned out, lacking that spark they did working for an employer. And so I think they fantasize or dream about being in control of their destiny. And it seems like the easiest thing to do is I'm going to leave being a marketer for one, and I'm going to be a marketer for many. I know you and I know that it's not that simple. So let's start with the basics. How would you define what a fractional chief marketing officer is and also what it isn't?
Yeah. So kind of the textbook, obviously the word fractional is, part-time or a part of, a chief marketing officer. We could probably debate what the definition of that actually is, with a lot of folks, but essentially, that's the person that is the advocate for marketing inside of an organization. Also, consequently, the advocate for the customer, which is certainly missing, I think, in a lot of people's roles. But, so then you get into all the things. It's the budget, it's the team, it's the, driving growth. Obviously there's a lot of crossover because people are getting chief revenue officers now in, different roles. And so I think that's changed the traditional role, frankly, of a CMO. You have a ton of them actually resigning these days. We have organizations, I think I read an article recently in Forbes that UPS basically has eliminated the role, altogether. So I think it's the CMO part of it is probably changing rapidly. And then that's probably a dynamic that's impacting the fact that one of the fastest growing segments is the fractional segment.
Yeah, it is. It is. You're 100% right. I think, again, we saw that with obviously COVID. We saw that with the Great Resignation. Right. You saw the uptick, the extreme uptick in the number of LLCs that were being registered on a daily basis. So people are running to the internet streets to do their own thing and lead their lives within their control. Can we actually go back to what you shared about chief marketing officer, chief revenue officer, chief customer advocate? I've heard so many different chiefs, chief growth officer. I've heard a lot of really creative titles that I think are a form of marketing, a form of sales, a form of revenue generation of some kind. Do you think that is legitimate, or do you think that's just people trying to differentiate themselves because not everybody can be a fractional CMO?
I think a couple things are happening. I think in larger organizations, the role of the traditional CMO is probably somewhat obsolete.
Okay.
In very large organizations that have a lot of dynamics moving, that have stakeholders all over the place that they have to adhere to. And so I think that's why you're seeing a lot of that. And in some cases, I think it makes sense in those large organizations. Where a lot of the growth is happening is I think a couple things. Fractional everything, is really kind of taken hold in the mind of the buyer of such services. I've been doing this for 30 years. I've essentially been doing the same model for 30 years. We call it fractional CMO agency today because that positioning now makes a ton of sense to people.
Sure.
10 years ago, if I'd have told a prospect that I was a fractional CMO agency, they'd have said, well, why are you talking to me?
Yeah.
I don't need that. And so I think the acceptance of fractional everything. And then I also think that the idea of what a chief marketing officer, or let's face it, somebody who's actually cares about strategy, marketing strategy inside the organization, the idea that regardless of size of the organization, we need that, I think is also driving a lot of this. And so you see organizations that are 5, 10, $15 million maybe that don't have chief anything, but they realize, hey, we need somebody who's coming in here from the outside, looking at what we're doing, giving us a strategic path, and maybe more importantly, helping us orchestrate all the moving parts of marketing, because that part's actually gotten more complex, over the last 15, 20 years.
Okay, I'm really actually glad that you brought this up, because this has been like gnawing at me. I think a lot of people, the buyer, like you said, the buyer of a fractional chief marketing officer, I don't know if they actually fully understand either what it means to be a chief versus a director versus a manager versus a contributor versus a project manager versus a doer and executioner.
You bet.
And so where I see a lot of my beautiful friends go into fractional marketing services is they go from working where their, I think, job description might be a little bit more defined, HR, and then they're going into like Wild Wild West where they become everything, all layers of the marketing nacho dip, and it becomes really overwhelming. So what percentage of a fractional chief marketing officer's week goes to strategy versus communication versus coordination versus execution? Like, what's the perfect cocktail?
Yeah, I actually think we need to step just a little bit back, because
Okay,
there are a couple
please.
models of fractional
Okay.
CMO, right?
Okay.
So the most, like the original model of it was somebody who had some CMO
Yep.
experience, said, hey, I can do my own thing. I'm going to sell a fourth of my time to 4 companies. And I'm going to go in there and say, like, what do you need? And what do you need? And so the job was different for everybody. It was
Everybody.
basically custom. It sucked the life out of you, all those kinds of things. The other model that I see developing, and it's the one that we teach and preach, is more because what happens is a lot of folks get hired to do that role of chief marketing officer, and they come to realize there's no team here. There's I got to write the email and do the social post too, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And that clearly doesn't work. And so what is missing, I think, in a lot of that model is you also need a repeatable system. You need something that can scale, that you can bring into somebody and say, okay, this is what I do, then we, build this team, and then this is what they do, or I help you build your team and manage your team. But I think where people really get into trouble with this model is there's no scope. It's just easy to go in and say, oh, you want me in your sales meetings? Sure, I'll do that. Oh, you want me to develop new products? Sure, I'll do that. And so they just get, blown apart because you can't do it all. But if you actually have a systematic methodology of, look, no, here's what I do when I come in, here's how we develop the roadmap, then here's what we do, long term, because there are very few organizations that want somebody to come in and give them a strategic plan and then say, good luck, right? Yeah. And so you've got to have the ability then to say, here's how we execute the plan.
You brought up product development. So this is another thing that I think is also a very blurred line. I think certain industries are more guilty of the blurring than others. Certainly the online education space, personal brands, definitely. But is marketing responsible for product development, or do you view marketing as a separate entity? Like, marketing brings products to the marketplace for purchase. We don't make products. So but you mentioned it. So I'm like, how much do you see that happening, or should it happen?
I mentioned it really just as an example because I do see it happen all the time. I mean, in a perfect world, there's no question what you described is the way it should work.
Yeah.
That marketing really maybe helps in the development, certainly in the messaging, in the positioning of it, maybe even in the pricing of it. But then they're not really deciding here's what our stack should look like of products. But in smaller organizations, marketing is everything. It touches everything. Yeah. It touches sales. It touches service, or it should, because it's dramatically impacted. And so it's hard to separate. And that's why I think a lot of folks, especially people that are hiring fractionals, they don't really know what a CMO is supposed to do. Yes. That's why they don't have one, because they've really never developed a marketing department at all. So, the belief is just like, you bring this person in and they'll help us grow.
How do you teach your fractionals how to discern what a good client is versus what they can anticipate would be a very needy, nightmarish clients? Like, one of the things that you mentioned that I use is part of my personal filters is team.
Yeah.
So I'll ask a lot of questions like, so wait a minute, before I jump in here, who else is a part of this party to make anything that I
Right.
prescribe work? Like, what other discerning factors, questions, qualities do you advise your people to watch out for so they don't get in a bad spot?
Yeah. So our approach maybe is a little different in that
Okay.
a lot of our engagements, we actually do the implementation as well. I mean, it's a whole separate, engagement, but we come in with that expectation. But our real filter is when we meet with a prospect, the only thing they can buy from us is a strategy engagement. And
Mm,
it has a very defined element, has a very defined deliverable, has a very defined, here's what you're going to do, here's what I'm going to do, has a defined cost. And if we get any pushback at all, on that, it's like, well, see you later.
yeah.
That's how we work. And I will tell you, it makes the sales process pretty easy. We're not dancing around proposals and like who's going to do what, how many hours. So I get it's like you're buying a product that we've done thousands of times now, and we know it will deliver a result. And then from that, they're basically begging us to do the implementation.
I hosted a retreat for some CEOs in Tennessee, and this came up because we talk about marketing. Marketing, our job is to determine like what elements to emphasize or the like you said, messaging, positioning. But to me, I'm like it's the gift wrapping. Like I'm in charge of how many bows I want, how many things I put around this offer, this product. And you mentioned emphasizing. You guys sell the product, which is the strategy.
Yep.
I think it's very common in marketing to like sell a solution to the problem. So the emphasis is usually on the problem. And
Right.
then there's marketing in the sense that you emphasize, I sell the result more than I sell even the process to get to the result, but I sell the result.
Yep.
You guys have found marketing or positioning yourselves around the product being strategy is the winner. Why?
So we don't necessarily position it around that. What we
Okay.
position it around is solving the problem because, well, not even solving the problem, recognizing the problem and explaining the problem to them and getting them to understand the problem because people really nobody wakes up and says, I'm going to go buy some strategy today. Right. I mean, they are like, why is this not working? Why is that
Mm-hmm.
not working? And so we position it really around that. And our key piece is to actually show them a true customer journey and let them realize all the gaps that they have. And when they see all the gaps in what a true customer journey should look like, typically they're saying, how can we fix this? And we say, by the way, here's our solution for fixing that.
Got it. Okay. So you enlighten them as to what they're missing out on that they might not have been aware of, and then they're in and of itself comes the solution.
I mean, most of the people, maybe you have a different class of client. I don't know. Most of the clients that we work with, they really don't have an understanding of what marketing is. I mean, $30 million remodeling contractor, and to them, marketing is hiring a young person to do social media. And so there's a ton of education in revealing, because a lot of those companies want to go to the next level. And they don't realize why they're stuck. And there's a ton of revealing what real marketing looks like.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I historically in the last couple of years I have found myself to be swimming in this river that is more internet marketers and
Yeah, yeah.
online personalities and influencers and podcasters. So they're the CEO or the founder of the organization, but they actually self-identify as a marketer.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a little bit different of a conversation because it's like, who is worthy of taking this away from me that would even come close to being as good as I am? That's a different level of conversation, right?
Yeah, and I think that's a fine market. We have
Mm-hmm.
just really focused on what I would call more traditional brick and mortar
Mm-hmm.
businesses because they really, in a lot of cases, they have a proven product that sells. Their customers love them. We can actually make some dramatic
For
impact by
sure.
just installing a marketing
Sure.
system.
Yeah, no, listen, my parents owned an HVAC company for 33
Yep.
years. And when I got my shiny marketing diploma, I was like, I'm going to put this to use. And they're like, well, our marketing is the yellow pages. I'm like, just the yellow pages, right? And so what we were able to do was astronomical
Sure.
because they were only doing the yellow pages. So the opportunity is definitely there.
I love the yellow pages though. Your entire budget for the entire year
Yeah.
went on the ad that got
Yeah.
placed on January 1st, and God hope it works.
Yep. Yeah, my parents even named their company Air Boca so they could be in the A section of the
Yeah,
yellow
right. That's right.
pages. So it was,
Triple A Acme heating for
yes,
sure.
yep. I want to ask you about person. Who is like, and I don't want to talk about who the perfect person is when it comes to like their CV and their resume that could
Mhm.
be a great fractional CMO, but I almost want to talk about like the qualitative attributes. Like, what are they like? Where have you seen people really be successful? What nature qualities, not nurture, because you're
Yeah, yeah.
nurturing them, but like what nature qualities do they possess that can really help them go the distance in this new practice?
So you do have to be a bit of a Swiss Army knife. I mean, so
Okay.
a lot of experience, a lot of industries, I think is really, really valuable because you are going to encounter, I mean, it's not going to be textbook stuff that you're going to encounter. And so having a broad history and variety of experiences, I think is really important.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to be data driven, or you have to really realize that that's an important function, because that is actually the most important thing you can bring
Mm-hmm.
to most companies. There is a creative element to this, because just getting people to understand the importance of messaging and story,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes takes being able to actually demonstrate that
Mm-hmm.
as well. So it has to be somebody that enjoys variety and loves kind of fixing things that are broken. A lot of curiosity is certainly one. Enjoys working in a lot of industries. There are a whole lot of people out there saying, niche, niche, niche. It would drive me crazy uh, to work with dentists every day or something.
I
So,
did that. I did that. 4 years in my career, I was exclusively in the multifamily and commercial real estate industry. And if I had to say the word luxury apartment one more time, I think I was going to go crazy. So yeah,
yeah,
I got bored.
yeah.
Hey Rainmakers, it's Veronica, and we'll get back to today's episode. But before that, I have an exciting invitation for all of you aspiring, ambitious marketing leaders. If you are serious about advancing your career in marketing and you're looking for an expert to give you some personal insights, guidance, tips, then I'm going to invite you to schedule a free Pathway to Promotion call with me. This is a special one-on-one call with just you and me to discuss your current roadblocks in your career, your long-term aspirations and ambition, and the next best step for you and your personal promotion. Head to pathwaycall.com or click the link in my show notes to schedule your free Pathway to Promotion call. Now back to today's episode. Okay, so this individual is going to take these their history, their inherent gifts and attributes, and now they're going to do this. What's that? Like they say, I don't know if you're a big NFL person, but there's this moment when football players go from college to the NFL and they have their welcome to the NFL moment, which usually means they get like plowed, right? Like they
Yeah.
just get hit harder than they've ever been hit before, like welcome to the NFL.
Right.
Where do you feel like these fractional chief marketing officers have their welcome to entrepreneurship moment where they just like it really hits them?
So I think at least what I've experienced is when they start working with a client and realize, oh my God, they want me to do everything.
Okay. Yep.
And they want, yes, they hired a fractional CMO, but somehow they think that's 80 hours a week.
Yep. 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 Unrealistic expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you help them? How do you come and save them?
Yeah, a lot of it's setting the expectation. A lot of times when you first get started, you're just hungry for somebody to talk to you. Oh
True.
my God, they're acting like they might actually pay me something, and so we're willing to jump in with both feet, whatever they say. Like when they come to you and say, all we really want you to do is run our Facebook ads as our fractional CMO, and you're like, sure, okay, I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
They said they'll pay me too. So I mean, you've got to develop, and over time you will.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you just got to pay the bills and you take
Mm-hmm.
money. But over time, you come to realize that true engagements start by identifying the right type of client, by setting the right kind of expectations, by charging a premium for what it is that you do because you're that good, as opposed to, trying to be the low price leader because you're, afraid that they're, not going to believe, that you're the answer.
So yeah, I totally agree. I think unrealistic expectations, scope creep. Meh. I also probably how I would phrase it, what you just shared. I tend to see marketers want to be rescuers,
Sure.
saviors, and I'm
You
like,
bet.
no, no, no. You're a marketer, not a savior of a company. You're a marketer. Like that's not. But sometimes I feel like they'll absorb the anxiety that a business owner might have. And I think that goes back to the question I was asking earlier too. It's like you can be a 15-year marketing vet, but if you don't know the psychology of working with another personality and you don't know how to maintain your frame and your boundaries and like protect your own nervous system from another person's unregulated nervous system, it's very difficult to be in this line of work, in my experience working with multiple clients.
I tell you, where I tell people all the time, the biggest mistake you can make is caring more about your clients' results than they
Oof. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
do. And that is, you're right. We're like, oh, we can do this. Wouldn't this be awesome? Because we know how to do it. And it's like, well, you're not getting paid for
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that.
Oh, little rescuers that we are in marketing. Okay, this is something that I often tell marketers, and usually when I say it, it's like a very like obvious validation. I find that marketers are the worst at marketing themselves.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
really good at marketing other people's services, brands, offers, products, businesses, brands.
Yeah.
But marketing self, it's like we forgot everything that we know about marketing. We can't be meta with ourselves. We can't be objective with ourselves. So when you go into fractional work, you have to not only market and provide epic strategy for your clients, but now you are in the business of marketing yourself and your services. And that's where people like have identity crisis and like
Yeah.
imposter syndrome. How do you help people market themselves when it's so hard to begin with?
Yeah. If I hear one more marketer say, well, don't look at my website, it's under
Yeah.
construction right now, right?
Oh, yeah. That's
So,
really funny.
one of the challenges with marketing ourselves is we see what we're doing for our clients and we see what's out there, and we build funnels and we,
Mm,
build all the stuff to generate lots
mhm,
of leads. And we forget about really our objectives.
mhm,
I mean, I work with many, many fractional CMOs at 6, 8 clients is like, golden business, right? Well, you don't need a video sales letter, funnel running Facebook ads for that. You just need something, a basic website that says what you
mhm,
do, that shows the results you've gotten for clients, and then you just need to network.
mhm,
And so sometimes I think we get caught. The reason we don't do it is because we're like, oh, I need to be blogging, I need to do this. And so we've got like 100 things started and nothing finished. And what I really advise folks to do is, there are 3 or 4 tactics for selling high ticket, high trust professional services that you just need to do brilliantly,
mhm.
and not worry about scattering yourself all over the planet.
So what are those things? What are those go-to must do?
Speaking in some fashion, developing strategic partnerships, and then just working LinkedIn or working your warm network. I mean, that's really it.
Okay. You're a speaker. I mean, I've seen you on stage with Jay Bear, who's been on the podcast before, and some different marketing personalities that I adore. Talk to me about your speaking history. Did you always do it with the intentions of generating business, or you did it because you identify as a speaker? I find that it's either one or the other for some people.
Mine was kind of it has changed over the years.
Hmm.
I used it as a marketing tactic for my own business.
Sure.
I teach it now. Speaking for Leads
Hmm.
is a program that we teach. And I just saw it as the most efficient way to get up and build trust and
Yeah.
to first off have like 15 or 100, prospects, that hear your message at one time. Really efficient sales process. As I started publishing and, my first book came out, then people started reaching out to me saying, hey, we want to pay you to speak. So it really transitioned to being a significant revenue stream for the business as well. But for most consultants, certainly fractional
Hmm.
CMOs, maybe that's a goal, but it's a golden tactic for getting in front of audiences. And I talk about the customer journey. It's one of the fastest way to move people, down
Yeah.
through the customer journey, because maybe they've never heard of you before. Now all of a sudden
Yeah.
they're building trust with you.
Yep.
Somebody brought you in there to be their speaker. You've said something really brilliant. Maybe you've even made some sort of trial offer. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a brilliant way for professional service providers of any kind to build pipeline.
Your sales cycle is like like you go from stage to close in less than 30 days, if even that.
Exactly.
I've certainly experienced that. Sometimes it's like stage side closing. Holy crap, right? It's that effective.
I've had people hire me at the side of the stage.
So yes, I totally agree with you. So it's a really lucrative way to generate sales like instantaneously. It's not equal to going to Vegas, but sometimes it can certainly feel like that if you've nailed it. The other thing that I like about speaking as a form of solicitation of high trust, high premium priced services, to your point, is it puts me in a power dynamic that I'm very happy with. So like
Right.
sometimes where I'll see even our own rainmakers be, I don't want to use the word belittled, but you can tell that the power dynamic is such that like they are not equal to their clients. They are at the
Mm,
mercy of their clients because they're viewed as a service provider and
that's
scope
right.
creep and this and this and this. However, when I get on stage and I book a client from stage, the power dynamic has shifted where they're like trying to sell me and working with them versus me having to sell them and choosing
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And that has always been wildly advantageous for my strategy to be heard and to have a chance to be executed, because they view me, if not an equal, but even maybe potentially a superior, because I was on stage and they weren't. So I have noticed that on a psychological front, that has always been very advantageous.
Yeah, I mean, that's when we insist on people going through strategy, that process of them, even if they're resistant at first, what they get out of that, understanding the voice of the customer, all of a sudden it's like we're their trusted advisor all of a
Yeah.
sudden now,
Mm-hmm.
and it totally changed the relationship
Mm-hmm.
from vendor to trusted advisor, no question.
Yeah. Super validating. What would you say is, it's 2024, economy's not the hottest it's ever been. Teams and resources are certainly being cut, or if people are leaving, they're not in any type of rush to backfill. Like we are seeing, we're seeing
Yeah.
two things are colliding. AI and new tools are making it so the expectations on marketers is you can do more with less. However, at the same time, the need to, the requirement to get a customer's attention has never been harder as well, because it's just, I mean, we talk about noisy. I think that's overused, but like it really is so damn, polluted in a way. And so like, what do you see for the future? Like you said, 10 years ago, I wouldn't even call them fractional CMOs. Like, what do you, if, magic ball, fortune ball, what do you see coming up for your fractionals? What are you advising them? What are you preparing them for that you can anticipate? Because you've been in the game for like 30
Yeah.
years.
So the next phase of what I think is coming is, I think we've gone through a 5, 8, maybe 10-year period where marketers have actually been able to become pretty lazy. You buy enough ads, you can drive demand. You don't really have to worry about KPIs so much because, hey, Facebook and Google will give you the greatest data, on the planet. So I think what we're going to see in the next, there's already been a move back to more personal, more human, and I think a lot, the more these technology tools, AI, probably the biggest offender of it, the more people are really wanting, as used as these terms are, they've I think we misused them 10 years ago, but I think they're actually more relevant today. People are going to want that authentic brand experience, and that's going to mean more. So I think for fractionals, I frankly think strategy's never been more important, and
Mm-hmm.
probably never been more appreciated than a lot of these companies that found
Sure.
themselves without one when this thing called COVID hit.
Yeah.
And so there's a real demand for a real understanding that I need that. I don't know if it's a demand. I think
Mm,
it's an understanding that I need that. And I think the marketers that really can help folks, tell a better story, tell a more human approach, use the tools for good, as opposed to evil. I think those folks are actually going to do quite well over the next decade.
okay. I love that. I don't disagree with you. I think people really want direction, and they want to be with somebody that has equal, if not more, conviction behind the direction than maybe they even do. It's
Yeah.
really funny. I find that like your confidence is the sell a lot of the times too. Just like to know that somebody really cares about my company's future besides me, who looks at the P&L every night.
Yeah, and frankly, we can talk about all the solutions to things, but what we're finding is people want control and they want
Mm,
confidence, and
mm-hmm.
certainly they want customers,
Mm-hmm.
but they really they want that idea that who can I trust, to tell me what's right, because
Yes.
everybody's selling the idea of the week. I mean, look at all the AI marketing agencies that are cropping up. I mean, it's like, who do I trust? And so, that is going to be in high demand. That's, if you work on any stage of your customer journey, trust should be the biggest one.
Trust, yeah. There should be a whole department, a whole like micro team, trust team, the
Yeah.
trust marketing team. Okay, so what we do on this podcast, because I just asked you a whole bunch of questions that
Yep.
you weren't prepared for, and you're been a phenomenal sport. You get to ask me whatever you want, put me on the spot. So have at it, sir.
I ask everybody this because I'm really very curious. Where do you get your own personal and professional development?
Depends on the season of life, if I'm being radically honest. So I have done, like, for example, I've done professional speaking development. So I've worked with like heroic public speaking with Michael and Amy Port and Grant Baldwin with the Speaker Lab, and with Pat Quinn from Advance Your Reach. So like I've worked on that craft with a number of amazing providers. So that's like a very specific skill that I wanted to gain and strengthen beyond just like natural Latina charisma on stage, which I can pull that out whenever, right? Honestly, the last year, 2 years, probably even 3 years, most of my development has been in psychological development.
Yeah, I've noticed you dropped a few terms there that
Yes.
hinted at that.
Well, because like I said, like I keep using this example, but it's so good. Do you know Gary Chapman's The 5 Love Languages?
Sure.
Right. It's like beloved. And it's from 1992, 20 million copies sold. Like a lot of people know that their love language is gifts or this or, Well, last year, eHarmony actually added 2 new ones because of how we love each other post-COVID. One being intentional new experiences like jumping on a plane together or whatever. So we saw that kind of vacation revenge, season. Everybody, you couldn't get a passport renewed fast enough because everybody was just like, let me get out of here. And then the other new love language is emotional security, psychological safety in a relationship. I say all these things because if you are in the business of high proximity, high ticket consultative services of any kind, strategic, partnership, anything that however you position yourself with your clients, I need to know more about why they're behaving the way they're behaving so that my actual services can be rendered properly. And that has taken my game to new levels without a shadow of a doubt. And it's also safeguarded me from having to feel like I've had to be a savior, a rescue, or all the other things that I'm just a marketer, just a little marketer here. Yeah. And so I've actually been pouring a ton into my own psychological development to understand why people behave the way that they do, how people want to feel loved or heard without also crossing the line where now it's an unprofessional relationship. So like that's the delicate balance. How do you remain professional, but also making sure that people feel seen in their feelings?
Well, and frankly, I'm in this situation too. I mean, I have an organization. I don't work one-on-one with, many of our clients, but I will say that it's a lot more fun to work with people you enjoy working with. And that's an element of, what you're getting at. You may not say, do I like this person, but you're certainly getting at an element of, do we have shared beliefs in terms of like what we're trying to do here?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I think it goes beyond that too, because like, sure. I mean, the pie in the sky is that all of my clients become beloved friends. And I know people like that. I know executive coaches who they go skiing with their clients. Yeah. They do retreats with their clients. Like they become like lifelong friends. I don't know if I necessarily want to cross that boundary, but I want to be in a position where, yes, we enjoy working with each other, but more than anything, that I have your back and that I can take care of you. And also if I'm responsible for the stewardship of your team in any type of way, that you would feel it's like the babysitter. Like, do I trust you to leave my children with you for 2 hours? It's the same kind of idea. Like, do I trust this outside person, not just with the strategy of my company's growth, but with my team who could be part family? Like there's a lot of back to the whole trust thing. Do I trust this person with arguably the most important department of all, which is revenue generation?
Yeah. I use my parents as this example all the time. My parents had very traditional, male, female, mom, dad,
dynamic,
kind of roles. But they also had incredible mutual respect for what they brought to, the party. And I think that that's what I'm always, looking for is that, with a client is that there just has to be that mutual respect, regardless. I mean, because the beauty of that too is then you can have the hard argument because because it's, I'm doing it on your, in your, looking out for you or looking out for your team or whatever it is.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, we will obviously share with all the people in our show notes all of your amazing links, but I would love for them to also hear it from you where you would like for them to connect with you and share what their favorite thing was about this podcast.
Sure. The place I love to send people, right off the bat, because it's a really easy place to go and get a couple free resources. It's dtm.world/growth. So that's DTM like duct tape marketing .world/growth.
Love it. Well, thank you so much, John, for being on today's Rainmaker podcast. Thank you for joining us on today's Rainmaker podcast. Marketers help other marketers. So if there's a marketer in your life who could really use a new perspective in a way that helps them advance their career, please pass this episode forward, share, like, leave us a review. Everything helps as we embark on helping as many marketers elevate themselves inside and out. You can always visit veronicarami.com for today's show notes, additional links to some free resources and tools for you to help you advance your career. You can always connect with us on social media at @ViaRomney if you want more behind the scenes or a way for us to connect personally. Until next time, my friends, make it rain.